Hey there, welcome to SharkCast Pod, a podcast dedicated to the greatest sporting club in the history of the world, the mighty Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. This show, as always, is brought to you by Dyson Logistics, the Royal Mighty Yacht Club in Port Hacking, and a good friend, Jason Hawes at Cripps & Cripps Real Estate. I am Sam Shinazzi, OG 2015 of this podcast, supporting the team for a lot longer than that. And on the other end of the line / video is an original gangster himself, goes way back to 2015 with us and supporting the club a lot longer as well. Mr. Michael Langridge, we call him RCB quite commonly, and we'll probably go with that tonight. We won't tell you what RCB stands for, but you can probably Google that and it might pop up. But Michael, welcome to the show. Welcome back. You've been on before, but welcome back.
Thanks, man. Good to be here. It's not Royal Challengers Bangalore, the RCB. If you do that into Twitter or Google, it'll.
Oh, really?
Yeah, RCB is Royal Challengers Bangalore for the IPL. But it's the Friends Rom song, Russell Crowe's band.
Is. Yes, there you go. Russell Crowe's band. Go look up the song. Great song. Great band.
Great band.
How are you? You going well down in Canberra, if I may say where you live? Going all right?
Yeah, going good. Family's good. It was hot today. We had a big storm with a lot of hail. So no damage though, so that was good.
Okay. Now, you are a Sharks nut, dare I say nutter, don't be offended. And you're here mainly, we're going to discuss the Hall of Fame because you do have an amazing knowledge of this club and history and passion for the club. Hall of Fame's coming up in a couple of weeks, which is awesome. And we're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about some of your thoughts on who should be there, who could be there, who won't be there, the whole thing. We're going to cover it. And we'll also get into a few other things about the Sharks after that. But just starting on the Hall of Fame, Michael, or as I was going to call you, RCB, Tuesday, February 18th at Shark Stadium, fans are able to purchase a ticket if they want to go see some history being made. Now, let's just go through what's going to happen on the night. So we already have 5 Sharks Immortals. We know this. We're just going to tell everyone else, maybe our younger listeners and viewers who don't know this, and that is Gavin Miller, Andrew Eddinghausen, Tommy Bishop, as well as the late and great Steve Rogers and Greg Pearce. Now, they're going to go straight into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some other people going through as well, which you'll find out on the night. And there's certainly no indication tonight what we talk about is going to happen. We're just speculating. We're just talking. And mainly Michael's going to have his say, and I'll have my opinion on his say. Yeah. Now, a bunch of people got together to make this happen. And Ash Taylor, who's the club historian, was on the show a couple of weeks ago. Go back and check out that episode. He goes through who and what the process was. But essentially, the criteria is the most important thing right now, RCB. I'm going to tell you about that. The criteria to be considered for the Hall of Fame, you need 4 of the following 5. So 4 of the following 5 demonstrated exceptional performance on and off the field. International test rep, including Rugby League World Cup matches. Played State of Origin, played 100 first-grade games for the Sharks, or my friend, won a premiership with the club, received a Dally M medal or an NRL recognised award, e.g. a Dally M positional award, Proven Summons, Rothman's medal, Ken Stevens, or a Porter Gallen medal, Sharks Player of the Year. So if you have 4 of those 5 things, you can definitely be considered to be in here. Now, what are your thoughts, first of all, RCB, on the night and what the club's doing? Tell us how you feel emotionally about it.
Oh, I think it's great. I think it's great that they're doing this because you want to have a celebration of your club and what the players mean and what they mean to the club and what they mean to the community. In the past, we've done things like team and a half century, team of this, team of that, and it's been done in sort of a bit of a haphazard way, I think. So by having a consolidated Hall of Fame with a night, with I believe Ash said it was a jacket, given to the players on the night, and to do it consistently. And I don't mean every year, but I mean every 4 or 5 years you induct a couple of new guys. That really what it does is it celebrates it and it starts something, but it also makes it special. Because if it's just done in sort of the slipshod rugby league way, then it won't really mean as much. But if they really commit to it, it'll be really great.
Yeah, well said. And I think that under the current regime and with the people involved, including Ash, I think there will be a bigger focus on regularity with this. Now, you and I were spitballing a bit before we started, and you brought up the idea that maybe the next one could be centered around the 10-year anniversary of the premiership. It might be 5 years from now. They might do it every 5 years. It may not be as rounded as that. It could be just randomly, in 3 years we'll do it. And then, another 4 has passed. But I do get the feeling, RCB, that it's going to be something that will at least be on the calendar maybe a couple of times a decade kind of thing, just to keep it moving. And I think we'll get a lot out of the night and see how it's received by the fans and by the general rugby league community, because these sort of things, they are of interest to the general rugby league fan. Because, for example, if there was a Melbourne Storm one next year, you and I'd have an opinion on who could go in there. We'd be kind of excited to see, random players maybe being mentioned. As rugby league fanatics like we all are, it's an interest. Now, obviously, it's an extreme interest for us, but I do think that there'll be a bit of interest generated from the media and also from the general public.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'd be, as long as they do it really, do the night well, make it feel special for the players, then, it'll be great.
Yeah, and I was speaking to Ash off air, and he told me just a couple of small things, nothing revealing, nothing crazy, which I'm not going to say on air, but he gave me the impression that it was going to be a pretty classy event, and they're not taking this lightly. They're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. They have their heart and soul invested into this night. They've got Yvonne Sampson, Andrew Voss hosting, and from what I can tell, there's going to be a bunch of ex-Sharks players there, whether they're being inducted or not, just hanging around, celebrating the club. Hopefully some fans get down there as well. So I do think it's going to be a night on the calendar somewhat, every, as we said, 2, 3, 4 years, who knows what's going to happen, but it'll be fun. And I think at least through the Sharks channels, the attention will generate from the Sharks media, from the podcast people, and also from the general rugby league people as well. I think that will snowball a little bit too. So I think we got some good times coming up. Tuesday the 18th. It's a busy off season for the Sharks, and this is kind of the more glamorous, fun part of it, as opposed to your trials and Vegas and that kind of stuff. Well, that stuff is exciting too. But tell me about what you're thinking about potential players that might get the tap on the shoulder, given the criteria that I said before. And you can start with however you want to do it. Just let's spitball and talk some Hall of Fame possibilities.
So I went and looked at all the criteria and looked at the players that, would be, in the mix to be considered. And I found it quite interesting to look at some of the guys and say, well, okay, so if they didn't win an award, and if they didn't win the, Player of the Year or whatever, then they've really got to have represented elsewhere and that kind of thing. I think the first main question I was sort of looking at was, this club obviously joined Super League, and there was representative stuff in Super League. There was Super League tests and there was Super League Tri-Series. Now, in the NRL, there's a sort of thought and viewpoint that anything to do with Super League is over in the elephant graveyard, and we don't speak about that, and it's over there, and that's it. But given that this is the Cronulla Sharks, who lobbied to go and needed it for survival.
Thank God we did.
Well, greatest thing we ever did. So we should be celebrating Super League. And when I looked at that, it meant that if you consider Super League as the same as, for state of origin and or test representation, then two extra players get put into the pool of people who could be considered for the Hall of Fame. And they were Danny Lee and the late Paul Green, which
interesting.
is interesting. There were other guys that if you looked at Super League, David Peachy, for example, his one Australian representative jumper was in Super League, but he covers off all of the other things. Yep. So he didn't need it. But those two guys, if they're considering it, and if they're saying, well, it's the same, then they're in the pool. They're in the pool of people that can be considered, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. Now, I don't know specifically if they are counting that. I'm going to just flip a coin and go, they might be, because I think that the whole Super League thing is right as you are about what you're saying about how it's a little bit of a kept secret in the NRL. I think as the years and decades go on and people get really obsessed by it, like you and I and a lot of other people, the jerseys are going through the roof right now. I think that the clubs, they don't really care, to be honest. I say clubs, not our club, but the clubs in general. And I get the feeling, if I was to flip a coin, I would say they probably would include Super League, but I'm not sure about that. I'm just speculating. But you're saying that would throw Danny Lee and Paul Green into the mix.
That would put them into the pool of guys that could be put in the Hall of Fame, which, I think is really cool. Like Danny Lee, as an example. So I was looking up his career. He won the Sharks Player of the Year in 95, and he won the Dally M Prop of the Year in the same year. So he's got these two, kind of big awards for his play. Played 100 games.
Yeah.
In terms of the first criteria, demonstrated excellence on and off the field. I mean, he played. Danny played 200 games for us, right? So, I mean, that is excellence on the field, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, that is open to interpretation. But,
well, yeah,
if you talk about excellence in Andrew Eddinghausen, or automatically you see him running for 100 meters against Parramatta at Parramatta Stadium. When you think of Danny Lee, you're thinking of 1,000 hit-ups of 8 meters of time, but they're all really important.
And so when you apply the criteria, so what I was really interested in the guys who sort of, were on the bubble, right? Yeah. So guys that, were maybe before my time, like the Speechleys and your mate Doco, they sort of didn't quite meet all the four to five things because of representation, which is a shame. But, if they're going to do it, then, yeah, I mean, I never saw those guys play. Do you think that, the likes of a Speechley or a Jonathan Docking should be considered anyway for the Sharks Hall of Fame?
I think as a cold, hard question, absolutely. If I'm not looking at any criteria, Doco, local junior, one club man, played rep footy and was our fullback and one of our main guys for numerous seasons. I would definitely throw him in the mix. He was on the board for a while as well, so off the field kind of stuff helps as well. With Speech, I mean, he did play at another club. He didn't play rep footy, to my knowledge. But, I mean, I think Speech is probably less so because of maybe less games and less time in first grade for Cronulla. But if I think about him, and it's one of those trick questions because I think there's probably 50 guys who I'd put with those two and go, oh yeah, throw them in. But with Docking, all bias aside, I would say that he would be a contender if I didn't know what the criteria was. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's a really interesting filter. Because
sorry to interrupt. What Ash said on the show the other week was Ash Taylor, the historian, was that they took it to ET and Gal and they said we need to be hard about this, otherwise every man and his dog's going to be in there, which is lovely, but also that's not greatness. So,
well, it's not the Hall of Very Good. It's the Hall of Fame.
That's right. So I can live with that.
So yeah, that was Gavin Miller. With Gow, Paul Gallen ticks all the boxes, and he ticks more of the boxes than some of the guys who are already immortal. So should they just make him an immortal on the night?
In my opinion, they absolutely should, and it's the first thing I thought of. But you know, there's lots of debates about people like that who are amazing and then finish their career, and it's like, well, when do you do it? And I don't have a strong opinion, except my opinion is the time is now. Like, you don't know what the future brings.
Okay. Well, as an example, to show you how long the time has passed, he last played his last game for us in 2019. He had his last home game at Shark Park. We've been back at Shark Park for a couple of seasons. The club saga still rolls on. I think enough time's passed to put him in the Hall of Fame. Like he's a lock for that. But I think they should just make him an immortal of the club anyway, because he's the only premiership captain. He's played the most games. He's played all of these State of Origin games. He was the State of Origin captain.
Yeah.
He ticks all of the boxes.
And he's gonna get it. We know that.
Yeah. So like why wait, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen with that. Let's wait and see on that one. But if you're asking me, would I do it? I would 100% do it. Absolutely.
Yeah, see, I would do it as well. But I guess maybe they'll go, well, we'll do these Hall of Fame guys. But then to me, it's like, but that, I mean, look, no disrespect to like legends of the club like Tommy Bishop and Gavin Miller and whatever. Paul Gallen he's in my mind, he's the greatest player that we've ever had.
He is.
And the most hard-nosed professional really that we've ever had.
He is.
And he stands above those guys. Maybe not Steve Rogers in terms of like the mystique of Steve Rogers, because like you got to remember, Large and ET are NRL Hall of Famers as well, so that's like this. That's like another thing. I think they should just put him in straight up.
I think when it comes to Gal and ET, the only thing that one of them did more was one of them played one more game in a season, and I'm not diminishing anything Paul Gallen did, because for me, he's the GOAT. My point probably is that ET's just behind him. Like he's a premiership trophy behind him is what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah. And I mean, look, I would encourage our listeners younger than me, so 30, 36, to go back and watch the Super League Grand Final, because we did play in one, in the 90s. I count it. And in that game against the world's greatest football team, like I would put that Brisbane side up against Penrith, right? The current, Goliath Penrith team. But yeah, like, so I was looking at the criteria, and obviously, there are guys who are from the premiership side which tick all the boxes, like Andrew Fafita, Wade Graham, Luke Lewis, Mickey Ennis, Jack Bird, your mate Val. They all tick all of the little things that would go to getting to the Hall of Fame. Do you think they will skew a little bit older for this first slot?
I think that is more likely, given I think Dave Riccio was on the show and he said something like that. So that's his words, not my words. But and I think that you're on the money a little bit about maybe in a couple of years they'll do something special with the premiership team. I just had a flash maybe, and it's just me pure speculating. I would love to see the list you just ran off from 2016. Well, sorry, the guys that were in that team who were eligible in 2-3 years' time, whenever the 10 years is up, I'd have a Hall of Fame then and go Val, Ennis, or the guys you went through. I'd say, what? So you did everything. Here you go. As long as they're in that criteria, you're not changing the criteria.
Yeah,
and
so
for a Ricky Latelli or whatever, it's like, well, or whoever doesn't fit in, you can still come to the night. We'll get a team photo. You're awesome.
Yeah.
Here's a premiership jacket or whatever.
So for the guys who are in the team that make it, it's Wado, Lukey Lewis, Val Holmes, Matt Pryor, Jack Bird, Mickey Ennis, and Sam Tagatese. They count in the thing.
So run me through Tagatese.
Well, Tagatese won the Ken Stephen Medal, which is an important rugby league thing. So under that, he counts. He played 100 games. He won a comp. He also he represented his country as well. So under that, he's in. So
I would definitely, and hopefully, Dino or someone sees this, I would definitely mark the calendar for 10 years from 2016 and have a night and be unabashed about it. No surprises. This is what we're doing. Like, let's celebrate it. And it's about that night. And your Chads or whoever else, they come along, they have a great time. Everyone gets a premiership jacket. There's a team photo, standing ovation, whatever. But
everyone's invited.
Yeah, these guys are going to Hall of Fame. I think that would be an awesome thing to do. I think that'd be incredibly special. But that's probably not going to happen. I'm just having a bit of fun. But I think that out of the guys you mentioned, I think over time, I would imagine at least half of those guys will get in.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of the guys that I think are really probably bolt on to go in this round.
Yes.
David Peachey, obviously legend of the club.
Yeah.
Matty Rogers ticks all the boxes. Jason Stevens is a guy who ticks all of the things as well. He also won the Ken Stephen Medal. He represented Australia.
Yes.
For Cronulla in very competitive Australian team. He played prop for New South Wales and for Australia when guys who was early 2000s, Mark O'Mealy, Willie Mason, they were playing and he was playing.
Luke Bailey's, those guys.
Yeah, Luke Bailey, all those guys. So
does Stevens tick everything but the premiership? Is that right?
Yeah, he played heaps of games for Cronulla. He played for New South Wales and Australia, and he won he won Ken Stephen Medal. Matty Rogers played 100 games, played for Queensland, was brilliant for Queensland when he was at the Sharks. He won Dally M Rep Player of the Year, and he was the Dally M Rookie of the Year as well when he first started. So he gets those kind of things as well. Brett Kamali was an interesting one. He played enough games for the Sharks. He represented Australia and New South Wales with us, and I think he definitely got a positional. Yeah, I believe he was Dally M. He definitely had a positional award whilst he was with the club, so he would get in. And also, he kind of also fits the demonstrated excellence on and off the field.
Absolutely,
right?
Still does.
He still does. The on and off the field is a interesting thing. The off the field, I don't know how you quantify that. I think you could use it to maybe use it as a cover to not induct somebody, maybe.
Yes.
Because there's obviously a guy like Greg Bird. He ticks the games. Won the club's Player of the Year. Played for Australia. Played New South Wales. Was a fantastic player for the Cronulla Sharks.
Absolutely.
But he's Greg Bird.
For people who don't know, there was an incident and they went through the courts, and we don't need to talk about that, but it was a not good look for the club, that's for sure.
Oh no, it was really bad. It was a bad.
Sorry, I don't mean to undersell that. It was one of the worst things that could happen, and it happened to us and the club, and obviously a victim. And we're getting way too serious about this, but it is true. So, yes, there is maybe a reason. But, with those things, in general, you can make up for that by going, oh, yeah, but this person has done this since then too. So there's lots of ways around that, I reckon, RCB, if you wanted someone in, or as you say, don't want someone in.
Well, it's really interesting doing, a player like that, he, because if that thing had not happened,
Yeah.
he would have played his whole career at the Sharks.
He was on his way.
Player.
He was on his way to a Sharks great, without doubt.
And he was at that stage when that happened. It was like neck and neck who was better, Gallen or him.
Yeah.
And so other interesting guys that definitely made it. Well, made it. I'm not saying made it. They're in the group. Your guest from the other week, Alan Wilson, the great Martin Lang, Sparkles McGaw.
So you're saying nearly made it, or could?
No, they're in the group to be considered.
Okay, yeah.
So Alan Wilson played 100 games, played for New South Wales, won awards. So if then, he's got those three. So then if he has the fourth thing, which is, in my view, if you're part of that's my team.
Oh yeah.
You're in. You're in the whole.
He's still coaching kids. He's done a lot of good stuff off the field. Yep. Chris
McKenna, Dane Sorensen, I think will be a guy.
Ooh.
I think he's a guy that will be inducted.
Okay.
Just because he's got the games, he's got the games, he's got the represented the club in a really great way. I played heaps of games for New Zealand, and he I believe listeners would have to double check on the awards thing, but I believe he sort of ticked it there. But
yeah,
I think he's certainly a guy that you would put in as a Sharks Hall of Famer.
He's a guy that comes up, in history, in talks about this club, about bringing a toughness, and he and his brother were just these tough Kiwi guys, didn't take a backward step, and had a lot of success in their careers. Dane also, I believe, RCB was on the board at a certain time. So he's sort of hung around the club a bit and done things, cares for the club greatly. So, that's interesting. I'd love to see Al Wilson get it. I don't know what the odds are, but he's almost like, I'm biased because he was my favorite player as a kid, but it's almost one of those kind of Hollywood scripted movies you could write about a player like him and his life. And
is he the guy from the ad, from the Tui's ad?
No, you're thinking of Glenn Coleman.
Okay, so that's Glenn Coleman, right?
Yeah, but he's probably in the video. He's probably in the ad. Glenn Coleman, very fast winger. I think short-lived. What was he? Short-lived Sharks CEO. Is that right?
Yeah, he was around when things weren't very good, and then I think he had to step in admirably. Another one of those guys.
Man, those guys, and I was reminded of this when I was interviewing Al Wilson. Whatever you think about someone like, I'll throw in Barry Russell, whatever you think about what you think you may know about these people and what they did at the club after their career, they are the lifeblood, man, of this club. They care so much.
Yeah, of course.
And sometimes they probably just get in positions they don't want to be in, like, hey, you've got to be our CEO or whatever. But those guys, man.
You've got to be our CEO. Or also, we were over the cap. Also, the coach was breaking the rules. You're the guy who has to sell this to the fans. Great.
Yeah, it's a tough one. But in Barry's case, he just loves the club. Like I'm sure he'll be down there on the night. Okay, you said Mark McGaw was a chance.
Yep, Mark McGaw. Yep, played enough games. New South Wales, State of Origin. State of Origin and Australia. So then, under the more sort of ambiguous first category, you could say, well, he's got 4 out of the 5. Yep. Danny Nutley, he won. He was Sharks Player of the Year. He was a Queensland representative. He was played enough games for us. Again, you could use the first category as a way of putting him in the pool to be discussed. But yeah, I think on the night, I'd say definitely they'll put in Peach and Dane Sorensen, and then others to be considered. Like you could do Matt Rogers, like easily, and then like I was saying before, like you could consider a guy like Paul Green. And given that there's now like a medal for him, and there's like a sort of real good feeling about him in the club, and we sort of honour his memory and his family, I think that would be he'd be a great person to consider.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I think it's a really cool thing that they're doing. So it's going to be very interesting to see on the night who gets the nod, because there's like 6 of them that they're going to put in.
Yeah.
So
when you're going through those names, so for example, like I'll pick one out, Danny Nutley. I hadn't maybe considered him for whatever reason. I haven't gone through my list and that kind of thing, to be honest. But when I hear Danny Nutley, I think, hard worker, played rep footy. Again, a very different sort of player than what we were kind of used to. And the style of football, at least for a few years, really suited his get down low, play the ball quick, that kind of thing. But that also, RCB says to me, and don't get me wrong, like if he gets it, awesome. I'm not saying he won't get it, but that says to me, oh, okay, well, it's a pretty wide open field, but only certain.
Yeah, certainly. And I think so to use another example of a guy from the park. Obviously, Cliff Watson is an absolute legend of the Sharks, but under this criteria of things, he doesn't fit 4 of the 5, right? But he's kind of, you don't have all that sort of, what am I trying to say here? Like part of the spirit of the 73 team is him bashing guys, and him being this like absolute hard-nosed dude from England who between him and Tommy Bishop came down and sort of made the club, like, jerk them into sort of some form of professionalism. But under the criteria, it's sort of, what do you do with a guy like that? Same as a guy like I never saw him play, but David Hatch was a player who fits a couple of the things, doesn't do the 4 or 5, but would you say he was a Hall of Famer?
Yeah, and that's a real interesting one, because as you say, it doesn't tick all the boxes, but he was club captain for a number of years, and a really good one. A very, very defense-orientated lock forward back in the day. The lock wasn't, or at least from my memory of that Sharks team and that era, the lock wasn't really the attacking weapon. Obviously, you had the best guy in the world playing second row and doing that. So, David Hatch was very much a defensive kind of lock, but just one of the guys that never took a backward step. He'd play injured. He was a great captain. And I'm kind of sentimental about that era, because that's when I started watching the team properly. But for some reason, Hatch, to me, I'm like, oh, he could probably be considered, even though, sure, it doesn't fit the criteria. I get that.
Yeah.
And that's where it's interesting, where guys like Miller and ET went, well, we need to really narrow this a lot. And I think Ash's words were something like, oh, that means a Hatch may not make it. And they went, oh, that's not very good, but that's what it's going to be. So I'm sure that Hatch will be there, and he would understand the situation. And, but yeah, I would think, again, if I didn't know the criteria, I'd be like, Hatch could be someone, you've probably never seen a more unglamorous player, but man, he really put in for us. So yeah.
Yeah. So the thing that's really interested me with this is the criteria, right?
Yes.
Because Rugby League loves the criteria.
Yes.
With the way they've done it, there is a bit of a skew towards modern.
Yes.
Because of state of origin.
Yes.
But then also there's that sort of coverall of if you won the comp with us, right? So James Maloney, he ticks 4 because he played 2 seasons. He played for Australia with us. He played for New South Wales. He won the competition with us, and he was the Dalian 5'8" of the year in the year we won the comp. Therefore, he's in, right? But other guys who might have played for way longer and was sort of more in the sort of DNA of the club, like like a Kurt Sorensen, for example, or Jonathan Docking, or like an Adam Dykes as an example from the same position.
Yeah.
They don't make it. So I think it's really interesting how they've sort of looked at the filtering of this.
Yeah, it is, and you wonder why it is like that. Now, maybe that's just something they came up with, and I'm not suggesting there's not a reason behind it, but maybe it's nothing as kind of pointed as like, oh, well, we got to get Maloney in, for example, so this is how we do it, or we got to get Ennis in, so this is how we do it. But the fact they threw it in there means something. And
yeah, of course.
And you know what? As I said in pretty much every episode we've done talking about this, there's actually no wrong answer. Like if they went, Maloney, you're up, you'd be like, oh, hell yeah, all right. Ooh, yeah. And if they go, Michael Speechley, it's you, or whoever, sorry, he's not eligible, but whoever's eligible, you'd be like, okay, cool, let's celebrate this person and their career at the Sharks. Can we talk about it? Can we do pros and, in a sense, cons about who could have competed with that person? Absolutely we can. I'm sure we will for months on end, but there's no wrong here, which is the positive of the whole thing.
So here's another one of our favorites.
Yes.
Preston Campbell. In my mind, Hall of Famer. Under this, no. He doesn't tick like two out of 5. But for me, 2001 Preston Campbell, it doesn't get any better than that. So
he won the big award. He wouldn't have played 100 games, right?
He won the big award. He might have been if you're counting the excellent on and off the field thing, he has 2. But he won the big award. He didn't play 100 games because he wasn't allowed because of our friend. He
didn't win a premiership with us.
Didn't win a premiership with us. Didn't represent state of origin for a reason. Anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, absolutely. And maybe there are people who are going, well, that's right, he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. He had a really, you know what I mean? He had a really good year. He won an award. Awesome.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Yeah, the whole thing is interesting. It brings up all these great conversations. And then you go back to your Noddy Kamali idea that he's up for it. Now that's I think that overall everyone will get up off their seats and clap him and cheer him now. Yeah, great.
There's never been a more controversial Sharks figure, especially online, like League Unlimited. All of League Unlimited's traffic on the Sharks from about 2002 up until the Greg Bird thing was mostly anger, or like you had to be on one side of the Noddy thing. It was like either you love him or you hate him.
Yeah.
And there is no in between. There's no like, oh, well, he's actually doing pretty good, but, the team's pretty limited and the coaching's not very good. And, no, it's either he's the worst and he's the handbrake, or he's a fantastic player. What are you talking about? So I think in that regard, he's going to be really interesting just for the online discourse,
Hopefully they don't bring up too many Gavin_Miller posts from that era. But I think I felt that way even up until we interviewed him with Newman around 2018, 2019.
Oh, yeah.
And then he just won me over, not in the sense that like it was him and it wasn't Preston. It was just like, you was doing your job. Good on you, man. Like we all grew up a little bit.
Well, that's the thing for me was, what was it? It was if the stupid Bears, here's what happened. If it hadn't rained so much in 1999, the Bears, it wouldn't have rained too much and they would have survived because they would have been able to go to Gosford. But because they didn't have any money, they had to merge with Manly, and then Manly ate them and kicked them out. And then they go, hey, Noddy, you don't have a contract anymore. See you later. So suddenly, Chris Anderson's favorite thing in the world was back on the plate at like $1 discount price. And it's like, all because it didn't rain, all because it rained too much like 5 years before. Ridiculous.
Now, for listeners who are not aware, RCB and myself were very obsessed with that era of the Sharks. We've done an episode on it, and we I'll say that we have a fascination with the coach at that time and the things that went down and didn't go down. But I think honestly, RCB, I've never really thought about until right now when you said that moment where the phone rings and his legitimately favorite person on earth, not just player, favorite person on earth goes, "Hey boss, I'm free."
I'm free.
Can you
This
imagine
4-year
Chris
deal,
Anderson's? Oh my God.
the 4-year deal I just signed with
Woo,
the Northern
woo,
Eagles,
woo.
it now doesn't exist, and I'm a free agent, and no one can sign me. Oh, I'll just come. I mean,
See,
anyway.
I've come so far in my, I'm not going to say maturity, but life. I can laugh about it now. Doesn't mean it wasn't important. Doesn't mean some of it wasn't hurtful and shameful to other players. But I can laugh about the fact that
Look,
Kamali, he was a hell of a player and he literally gave everything he had when he was on the field for the Sharks.
yeah. Oh, he did awesome stuff for the Sharks. He was a great captain of the club. He tried his guts out.
Yeah.
He had a smashed testicle for the team. I mean, in hindsight, what else did I want? I wanted to win the comp so bad. I didn't matter how I got there. So
yeah. So yeah, that'll be interesting. See what happens there with Kamali. I was wondering if former coaches would be invited, including Chris. I would assume maybe or not. What do you think?
I feel as though if you do things like we tried to fight Dean Trista in the bar or something.
Yeah.
He said that he basically said the quiet part out loud about the Sharks, right? He came from Canterbury where they won and were ruthless, and he was like, "You guys aren't ruthless enough."
Yeah.
My way of fixing this is to burn the place down. Okay, he could have done it a different way, but long story, whatever. I don't think
the club can't be mad at him because they allowed it to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, Steve Rogers signed him, and then look.
I'm just wondering. I'm wondering,
maybe bygones be bygones. I would invite John Lang.
That's what I mean. Does Lang get it? I'm not just making this about Chris Anderson. Does Lang get an invite? Does Shane Flanagan get an invite? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I guess. Look, for the 2016 guys,
maybe around that time. Yeah.
I think he can come then. Val's fine. Yeah. Jack Bird's fine. Great. Yeah. Obviously they'll invite Ben Barber. I hope Ben Barber's doing all right by then. Who knows? Flano, forget he won the comp, but there's a lot of other stuff with Flano. There's a lot of other controversy. It'll be weird, and it'll also be weird if he's there and he's the current Dragons coach and he's like, yeah, Red V. It's like, no, ugh.
Well, let me ask you this: if there's a 2016 celebration, he can come. Is that what you said?
Of course he can come. It's just be a bit odd. But no, everyone should come. The ball boys, the NS hugged at the end. Bring back the mascots. Bring back everyone. Bring back Hino's kid that got run over by the car. Like, get them all.
Little Rocky. What about that, Rocky?
Anyway,
my God, that was a horrific afternoon at Shark Park. Oh my God,
dude, that could have been the end.
Yeah,
if just child. I think the NRL would have been too much. It's too much for you guys.
Yeah, I probably just gone. Yeah, you know what?
It's over.
Thank God, Rocky's all right. Great kid, great family.
Go good, Rocky.
Okay, Hall of Fame. All right, so that's your take on the Hall of Fame. Now, we are both pretty passionate about the fact that we want this to be a regular occurrence.
Oh, yeah. Every 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Be great.
Okay.
It's got to mean something. It's got to be important to the players that get it. And it's got to mean something. And also there's got to be a show of it at Shark Park 2 or Cronulla or in the stadium somewhere, like when you go to American stadiums and whatever, they have like the players, the Ring of Honor players around the stadium or, jerseys in the rafters and that kind of thing. I mean, at Shark Park, we got a huge black wall with nothing on it. You could put some stuff up there. But in the new club, it'd be cool to have like, these are our Hall of Fame players. This is what they mean.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a good feeling that something like that will happen on the back end of the Hall of Fame night in a couple of weeks. So I don't know when it'll be, but I'd watch your space on that one, and we can only encourage them to do that. We've been pushing for statues and for banners for a long time. So let's see what happens there. So RCB, we're going to be, not you and I, unfortunately, but myself and some of the other guys will be down at the event. We'll do a bit of streaming. We'll do a bit of podcasting. Hopefully get a few interviews with some legends that we haven't caught up with and some we have. So that'll be fun. Bit TBC and all that, but it's going to be happening, which is awesome. And the Sharks are doing an amazing job, I'm sure, covering it as well. So stay tuned on all that kind of stuff. Now, while we've got you, we want to talk some other Sharks news, and we've got a trial match in 2 nights, less than 48 hours actually. So in maybe, let me do the math, from when you and I are talking right now, in 47 hours we're going to have a result, which would be awesome. And what did you make of the team? What are your thoughts on what was named?
With trials, I just look at it and go, well, I guess they're going to get guys out there, blow the cobwebs out. The Warriors have picked a very strong lineup, which is interesting. Ours is, they're going to see how guys go. They picked Kafusi at lock, which was interesting. They picked Will Kennedy. Obviously, he needs a run. I know that I believe Ison's injured at the moment. So, and then I guess they don't want to be like putting makeshift guys in there first up. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens over the 2 weeks. Obviously, they're going to come to Canberra and play the bigger, more of a first grade team. Which will be interesting. And, all you want from trials is no injuries and people look all right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you don't want to lose by 50. You don't want any injuries. That's kind of it. But, yeah, the Warriors named a good team. They'll play, you'd think, at least
maybe 20 minutes.
30. I think 30 minutes to a half. If you're going to name that sort of team, it's no use just playing for 10 minutes. So I think they've gone with that mindset of, well, we're going to either have 2 great hit outs, or the first one will be the hit out and the other one won't be, and then we'll take them to Vegas. I'm not sure how they're doing it, but I got a feeling, 20, 30, maybe a half from Warriors guys, and then they might bring out the second team. I think by that point, our second team will be out there as well. So interesting. It's all relevant. It's all cool. I saw some articles tonight about Tom Hazelton doing an Australian-wide tour. What are your thoughts on there? You want to keep Tall Tom? What do you want to do with Tall Tom?
Well, look, I want to keep him, but he's kind of from around the way near me. He's from Goulburn. He played soccer with my brother-in-law, in the Cronulla Goulburn competition. So I've known about him. Pardon? Yeah, he's a gun soccer guy. He can bomb. He can smash the ball in with both feet from a long way away. It's just he's 8 feet tall. So they're like, maybe rugby league would be better. But yeah, no, he's skillful dude. But yeah, and I've known about him coming through the system for quite a while. So, and I've grown quite attached to his big bald head scoring tries. So obviously you want to keep all the guys, but look, if he goes, well, good luck. There'll be another guy coming through. If I'm honest, I'd prefer to, prioritize guys like Stone Street and Ronaldo, in terms of re-signing and whatever, given that Acto is gone. And I know that they're sort of looking at dudes in the forwards. We got Max Bradbury from Newcastle who's coming back from injury. We've got Colquhoun who will probably play a little bit of first grade this year. Oh, for sure. We've got, and they're looking at younger guys as well, like Felix Fatili and whatever. So, but if he goes well in the trials and plays well, obviously, I believe Newcastle, his asking price is too high. So maybe he'll come back to the Sharks and go, I'll sign for this or whatever. I think Dragons are maybe looking for him as well because they had a guy leave the other day. So, look, if he goes, he's had a cool little Sharks run. It's been cool to have him in the team. I'd prefer to keep him. I wouldn't spend heaps of money on him. Yeah. But yeah, it'd be a bit sort of like, oh, well, I wish it had worked out. But at the same time, I want Stone Street to stay for ages because he's really fast and looks like a guy that can do a lot of great stuff. And I want Ronaldo to stay because I believe that he could be a Hall of Fame type player. And also he is on pace with the tries that he could be someone to push ET's numbers if he stays for a long time.
So if you're coaching the team, are they your wingers this starting round one, or does Stone Street need a bit more time, or what's your vibe there?
It's hard to say. I like Katoa. I thought Katoa at the end of the season was probably doing better than Ronaldo anyway. He scored in the corner against Penrith. Other players who shall remain nameless had the ball right next to them and didn't know how to put their hands on it. But I think eventually there'll be an ushering in of Stone Street, because the form will be, what will happen is he'll play in cup and he'll look too good. This is what happened with Val, right? Val looked too good at that lower level. And then Flano was like, no, we're not playing these guys. We're not playing these new exciting guys. We got to have Mitch Brown on the field in the first round, And then like that was after we didn't go so well, he ushered in the change. I think if we hit the ground running all right, he'll probably stay in cup. But if there's any sort of like slow start or whatever, he'll be the first guy that they'll be like, we're putting Sam Stone Street in because he's a real attacking weapon and a bit of a shake up. But I think round one it'll be the guys who played last year. So your Kennedy, Katoa, Ronnie, Iro, and Jesse Romian. They'll be your backs.
Yeah. It's interesting, man, because Katoa was the best player against Penrith, and I'm a pretty big fan. Like I like what he does. I think that the only real negative he has in his game is the fact that he's not, a foot taller or whatever. His defense has improved over the years. It's not amazing, but it's
amazing. But again, it's no worse than Ronnie's because sometimes Ronnie is like over there. But I think again with that, another year of having Iro there, that's going to be better as well. So that center combination is going to be good. You're going to Vegas, yeah?
Yeah.
That's going to be great. You're going to have a good time.
I'm glad.
I hope we win over there. I believe that we'll pick a good enough team to play Penrith and hopefully get something out of the game. I don't know what's happening with their team. Like Cleary he'll probably be fit for round one, surely, right?
I think they'll all be fine. Yeah, it's the Penrith way. Like, I think on that big stage they're not going to necessarily rest guys. I'm not saying they'll do it for Vegas, but if you don't play Cleary and he's like 95%, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah. No, they'll play him. I'd say it's a good time to get them. Round one straight up because they're going to have a few weeks where they're figuring out what they're going to do without Jerome Luai there and without Fisher Harris. Yeah. So it's a great time to get them. Get a win. Fantastic. Go over to Vegas, do the thing. So I think given the travel at the start of the year, we'll need to bank some wins, make sure we're ticking the wins over. Yeah. To when we get to the end of the season. Yeah. But it's very exciting. It's only a couple of weeks away. Are you doing anything else in Vegas while you're over there? You're going to go to Fat Mike's Punk Rock Museum?
Maybe actually the legendary Craig, I don't know if I'm allowed to say his last name, nickname More Beers, has invited me, which is awesome. So at some point I think so. Yeah. As far as other things go, we're going to keep it pretty Sharks specific. Like we're going to do a bit of a meetup with other SharkCast listeners and that kind of stuff. And then we'll hit some of the NRL events. Hopefully we're going to cover a little bit of the team for the club and and for the pod, but otherwise I am there for a holiday. So there'll be a couple of drinks drunk and a bit of food consumed, but it's going to be good, man. It'll be fun. I mean, obviously it's a crazy time to go to that crazy place, and I'm going to try and keep a pretty low profile, but yeah.
Fantastic.
So yeah, it's one of those things that I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'd be great for the club. I think that they'll be able to
it's great exposure for the
raise the profile, sponsorship, whatever you want to do. I think you can actually do it if you plan for it, if you get the right meetings, if you get the blokes in New York, the hotel owners, the casino owners, get their help. I think that you can really expand the brand for sure. I'm not as organized as a lot of the other fans at the moment. Like, I'm still just getting some stuff together, but I'm 100% going, and it's going to be awesome. And I'm excited. I don't sound excited, but I'm really excited. And it's going to be pretty strange seeing them run out at Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah. Well, so my dad went last year because he supports Souths, and I'm going to go. And he had a great time at the NRL's thing on Fremont Street. Yeah. In the old Vegas. And he said it was a great whole thing was like fantastic. He said it felt like the grand final. He was like, this is like the grand final. But then you've got a whole season after that, and obviously Souths were bad the rest of the year. But he sort of he likened it to being at the grand final as a sort of event, which
I completely understand, and I can see how that would be the case. But I do have alarm bells if I think of it in that way, because it's round one, man. It's round zero, as Bitsy said.
It's round zero. But yeah, I mean, when he said that, I was like, how can it be like the grand final? I mean, the carnival atmosphere. Yeah, of course. Yeah. When I went and watched Cronulla in the grand final, I couldn't enjoy any of the carnival atmosphere because it was the most important thing that would ever happen, and it wasn't a guarantee. So I couldn't be bothered with frivolity. There was incredibly important stuff to happen. So it'd be like, my circumstances are that, it's not really a thing I can go to, whatever. But, I think for the people going over there, it's going to be a great old time. And, you've got English games as well and women's. It's going to be a treat.
Look, if you're doing the whole day, it's going to be a treat for sure.
It's going to be long.
It's long, yeah.
$48 for a jug of beer or something.
And there's no leaving the stadium either. So if you go early, you're there for the long haul.
You really
which is cool. Like, do it. Like, you're there for a good time. Do it. I don't know if this hombre will be doing that, but it's going to be fun. And you're right. Like, not everyone can do it, man. Like,
Are we on last? Are we the last thing?
We're last. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you want to do it like a gig, right? You don't want to get there for like gate open. You want to be like second support band or whatever. You'll stroll in.
Sun's going down. The main headliners are starting to headline the festival. Yeah, I'll turn up. But we'll see what happens. But no, you're right. Like, not everyone can do it. Like, it's not a cheap thing to do. Like, I'm doing it, I would say, fairly on the cheap, just through sales and different circumstances. But it's still like real money, and it's even when you do it, you're like, am I really going to do this? This is a big commitment. But if you can do it, do it. Like, it'll be fun. If you can't, completely understand, and I'm sure that the coverage will be covered by lots of people, including us, as best we can. So it's a no-brainer for the Sharks. I think go over there and so, excuse me, sell your products.
For the club to be in it, to be going over there second year of it, really cool, playing the premiers. I'll tell you what, I'm so glad that we're not playing the Raiders over there, because if they'd moved my game here in Canberra where I can, walk to Las Vegas, I would have been a bit miffed.
Good reason to go.
I know. I'm not flying to Vegas to watch the Canberra Raiders, man. That's not happening. I draw the line.
Okay, so Thursday week we're in Canberra, trial match. And then not long after, we're back for a regular season game. When I say not long, like round, 3, 4, 5, we're down at Canberra as well.
Yeah, so. April, start of April, yeah.
So, yeah, it's exciting time, man. It's gonna be a big year. It's a bizarre way to start it with
It
Hall
is.
of
It's
Fame and
weird.
Las Vegas, and then all over
Yeah,
the
I
shop.
mean, yeah. The Vegas thing is like this party at the start, and it's like, oh, now you have 26 weeks plus, Magic Round in the middle and State of Origin and all the thing of that, and then you want to get to the semis and be good in them. So
So
you
I
have to
think
start a long slog.
I think the trick is for the club and for Fitz. I know it's easier said than done, but the trick is to embrace it. It's a long
Yeah,
year. We're on the road a bit. Let's be great. Let's go and be great on the road. Let's be the Penrith
yeah.
Panthers. That's what everyone wants to be. Let's go be them. And there's no real excuses. Like, okay, there might be some injuries along the road. There might be whatever, but their team is so stacked now. We're all pretty happy with how
It's
they line
really
up.
it's got to be go time.
Yeah.
It's this is it.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily think it's premiership or bust, but I think that you want to be competing for that at the very least. And you need to be there at the end of the year.
For me, we want to be in that top four. You want to be in that
Yeah.
circle of four teams
Absolutely.
that are playing to be in the grand final. You've said over the last few weeks on the show, you felt that we should have won the game against Penrith. I am sort of that view as well. I believe that we didn't put our best foot forward in the game. We dropped the ball too much. We weren't, and because of the drop ball, we didn't allow ourselves to build pressure or do anything because, apart from sort of Penrith's try early on with the Toby Rudolph, that's how they scored first, right? I know they got the penalty goal when he tripped the guy, but then they scored after that. We were in the game, but we were always sort of a little bit behind. But if we'd just been a bit more clinical, we really could have been like they weren't as good that night as they were the next week. They were ruthless against the Storm, right?
Yeah. So when I say, that's what I mean. When I say that night, I'm talking about that night.
Yeah, they weren't as good that night, and I think we did miss the trick a bit. And to be honest, I think we missed the trick a bit in Melbourne as well. Like when you start the game by watching the ball go over your head, touch it, and then instead of getting the ball, you have to drop it out. It's like all of the weak build up.
Yeah.
With like for what goes on? Like
I don't think I would never say that's a reason why we lost. And I haven't really thought about it since like that week, but now you bring it up, I get a little shudder. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, that's not a great way to start a game, let alone
but
a finals game.
It's kind of like if you pack up for a trip with your family, you pack the car up and then you get to get in the car and the tire's flat. You're like, what the hell? Like to start in that way. And not only that, but to start in that way and then to fight back and be in the game at halftime and then just sort of like crumble away. I think they've really got to learn from that. I think they've really got to see those things because, you only get so many chances at this top end of the table, Like look at South. They lost prelims here, they lost prelims there. They got to the grand final. Their guy didn't kick the ball through the post at the end, and now they're sort of they went a new direction, and now they've got the old direction with Wayne.
Yeah.
There's only so much. Our own team, we watched them make the prelim in '96. Have no idea of any sort of concept of how to beat Manly. Made a grand final and it's one of the greatest teams ever, but never quite got there. You only get so many shots at it.
Yeah.
So you got to take the chance.
And I think that was a bit disappointing for me in the second half of the Penrith game because it was literally do or die, and there were minimal shots fired in attack, like specifically,
in attack, and like we didn't really give ourselves a chance. Like we just dropped the ball at the worst times, and the sort of I know there was like no luck there, like with the Nico thing at the start of the game.
Yeah.
But then when we kicked it through and he was there and then the ball just dies, it's like, come on, this is the pointy end. This is what it's all for.
Yeah.
All of the other stuff, this is what it's for. And I just think they need to feel that sort of the pain of losing in that way to get them to the next level. And I think, obviously having Fanil Blake's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
This is a new thing in the team, a forward that like does stuff,
I mean, the way he played that rep footy at the end of the year was unbelievable.
And the meterage that he makes, like one of my criticisms of this current construction of the Sharks is, the backs do so much work, and then you have like, guys sort of like getting under 100 meters, under 10 meters a run. It's like, come on, guys, if you are putting, if they're running 2 times less and you're running 2 times more, and you've got the energy in the tank, we should be barreling over teams,
Yeah.
So this has got to be the way it works.
Yeah, and I think they did learn from the Melbourne game. Like, I saw enough in the Cowboys game, in the Penrith game, that I think they'd learnt from the Melbourne game, but you still got to win those games. You got to make the most of those opportunities. There were little things like the Trindle no 40-20 into the Cleary 40-20, the Nico no try. There were things that if they go our way, that's you're leading the game by 8 points or whatever, and maybe you go on with it. Maybe you win by a point. I don't know, but at least you're in it.
But with that, because we didn't hold the footy, which is another criticism of the Sharks, basically since October 2, 2016, that our respect for the ball is just nil sometimes.
Yeah.
We didn't give ourselves enough opportunity to have more chances. So then when if you have 2 chances in the game, let's be real, and you don't ice the 2, okay, well, you don't ice the 2. But if Penrith have 14 chances and ice 3 of 14, their stats are still bad, but they still had so many more shots at the target, So I think, I really think I really hope that they saw that as a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think they did, and the coach sounded like that the other week when I spoke to him in the interview. Like he sounded pretty annoyed still, and you can only think the players felt that. And the number one thing I would hope is that they knew what they were playing for. And I think I interviewed some of the guys leading into that game, and they expressed they knew what they were playing for. And in the heat of the moment, look, I've never experienced that, so I don't know what it's like. But maybe you're not thinking about what it's for. Maybe you're just thinking, I've got to do this, got to do that, whatever. There's a lot going on in your mind. But somehow, and it goes back to me asking the coach about Friday Night Lights. Somehow I would just drum into them that there's only 17 guys that have done this in the history of this club, and you want to join that group. You're a half a football away from at least making the grand final. So, and you know what? I don't want to like freak everyone out, but I was thinking that the other day that if we won that game, we probably beat Melbourne on that night, the way Melbourne played on that night. So,
maybe. I mean, look, I think unfortunately for Melbourne, they played a team that went out there and just strangled them to death, and the way that Penrith play is unique, and how much energy they have all the time. And, whenever there's a little bit of doubt, Nathan Cleary just goes, okay, so now I'm just going to press the button where I'm the best, and that's it. And your chances are gone.
Yeah.
But, if it had been us, I would have liked to think that we put in a good account and really, got into Melbourne and, shown what we can do. Because when we played in the start of the season, here's a question for you. Do you think that loss against Penrith at Shark Park kind of killed the season a little bit? Because I don't think we ever looked... I thought our best games were those 2 games, Melbourne and then Roosters at Magic Round. And leading into that, we did stuff like we played here in Canberra, and it was the easiest game I've ever watched them play. They won 40-0 in a canter, right? They were fantastic.
Yeah.
But we played that Penrith game, and it was like I was just hanging on, just going, don't get 50 because then, the 50 points you can't win, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I was kidding myself. That beat down that day was like no, this isn't, all of the air is out of the balloon, right? And then from there, the balloon was being filled again, but there was this hole in it, which we knew was there. And so, I don't know. I think we put in better account of ourselves in the semi-final, in the prelim. But I always sort of felt from that day that, no, there is a level here where they are, which we still need to get to.
I agree with that. I wouldn't say that the season was over then, or however you put it. I wouldn't agree with that. I think that because it was halfway.
Over. I meant like the.
No, I know what you're saying. However you said it, I completely hear what you're saying. I think that the only way I'd go along with that is that you would say Nico had a terrible game. He was injured, shouldn't have played. Played Origin, and then it was all disastrous, right? So there's a lot of bad omens around that game. But I'm more of the opinion that, okay, lost 42-0, got pantsed. We really should have beaten them or be competitive the way we were going. But it was halfway through the year, and we had another half of the year to get it together and get back to their level. And you know what? We kind of almost did.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of negativity around that game, but I don't know. I was very disappointed with that game, and I walked out of there pretty shattered.
I felt like a crime had been committed against.
It wasn't good.
It
wasn't pretty.
I was so pumped up for it, and the way that they just battered us to death, I was just like, oh my, what has happened? Like, this isn't the same team from last week who played so good against the Roosters, scored on the first set, like did all this mad stuff.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype about the game.
Yeah, the hype was,
but we were coming off a lot of hype, like the Melbourne and Roosters games. And was there a Broncos at Suncorp around that as well?
That was after that.
That was after.
But
it was almost like it was all a bit too much because the hype about that game was through the roof. So
yeah,
you're at home, you got to do better, man.
So in 2016, like I felt that we could win the comp when we beat the day that we beat the Bulldogs, and we sort of came back, and the way we won that game, I was like, there's something's on here.
Yeah.
Right. And then, but there was never a game in that season where like the foundations were shaken terribly.
No.
Whereas that was like, I would sort of say, I don't know if you've ever watched the show Oz, the prison show that was on SBS. There was stuff in that which was horrifying, right? It was a horrifying television show.
Yes.
That game, I had the same feeling that game as like watching like something terrible on that show. Like, the guy from Spider-Man who plays Vern Schillinger, the worst person to ever live. And like some of the stuff that happened in that, it shook me up. That game to me, I was like shaken up in like a rugby league sense. And like, so I think it's interesting going on to like the next season. How do we learn from that? How do we get better? We brought in this really great player. We haven't really lost any. I mean, we lost Royce Hunt and Jackie Williams, and I hope they do really well at their new clubs. But we brought in someone who's like an absolute beast. And I really think that we need to be pushing for the grand final. We got to do better, and we got to be better in that big game.
I agree. What they learned from that game is you need to start well. But then you look at the Warriors game, and it's a bunch of Warriors games. It's like you got to finish well. So there's no real rhyme or reason to what I'm saying about that. But the start against Penrith was disgusting. When it was 12-0, you were like, okay. As soon as it was 18-0, we were done. Like against that team, like other teams, no, we can come back from that, and we have. Against Penrith, you were never coming back from that. Unfortunately, it blew out. So I think if you also look at the other side of it, Penrith were coming up against the Sharks, and the Sharks were as hot as they'd been probably since 2016. Like, we were
Yeah.
wiping out everyone left, right, and center. We doing stuff that said we couldn't be done. Oh, they won't win one of these 6 games, or they won 5 in a row, whatever it was. And I think Penrith had a bit of a point to prove,
Oh yeah, I think they made a point of that.
They did.
They made a point of it, which is really interesting to see the mentality.
Yes,
that ruthlessness in mentality in like a rugby league team.
that's what I want. Because if we lose that game to that Penrith team by 6 to 8 points, I don't care. But you can't lose 42-0.
No, and there was just something about the manner of it, which was like so horrifying. It was like, oh my god, this thing that I thought was really
the other issue was Nico was on such a pedestal, and rightly so. He was going unbelievable. That he did play injured. He was kicking out in the full a few times. It was just like, as you said, a bit of a horror show. It was like, what the hell is going on here? It's not so much we're conceding points, but now our best player's kicking the ball out in the full, and he's come off at halftime. Like, it all just kind of went pear-shaped. So, significant loss, but I wouldn't say it had a massive impact on the season, except for the fact that it was the start of the whole Nico thing.
Yeah. So with that, I felt like in this current squad, when this is more of a criticism of the 2023 team than last year. Last year was really good, right?
Yeah.
But it's the same core guys that they couldn't just have a normal loss. It had to be a calamitous loss. Like, it had to be we're going to be battered to death by Penrith, or we're going to be up 24-0 against the Warriors and lose somehow. Just like
I don't know how. I don't know how the coach goes on after that sort of stuff. Like, as in, like, how does he gather himself and then get them to play great again? And just knowing what a competitor he is, to see that from up in the stands and be like, and like, it was bad enough for me that I had to see it, but
and the fact that it happened last year with Sean Johnson. Yeah. I mean, I was like a white hot rage. I nearly combust. Like,
so I think I don't know if I told this on the show or not. I probably did, but I was at a charity concert. Every year we do a Bruce Springsteen benefit, like a tribute show, and we give the money to charity. And so I couldn't get out of it. I had to be there, and I wanted to be there, but it was a home ground clash. So anyway, I've got the KO on. We're up. We're winning. Awesome. And it's getting closer and closer to my turn to get up and sing like Darkness Ninja Town. So I'm up doing like 3 or 4 songs throughout the night. And I've got the KO on, and they're coming back. And I've literally got the tap going, you're on next. and the captain throws the ball to Williams, and there's the scrum. And I'm like, I haven't got a good feeling about this at all. And I've got about 30 seconds to get on stage, and I just see him go right, and I was like, I was so disappointed, man. And
man, like, and that's the thing.
I was at the ground for the other one, and it's just those losses are never okay.
No, they're not okay. And the thing that's made it worse is they've all been at home, right? So if you look at that one, there's the Penrith, we got set on fire. There was that calamitous loss to the Warriors. There was the other calamitous loss to the Warriors. There was the stupid game against the Dolphins where they're up 24-0 and we came back, but then we still lost. I went to a game and I saw you last year, and we were down like 24-0 to Manly, and then we came back in this flurry and we could have won, but of course we didn't. And they've all happened there, right? And there's sort of this, I don't know. What I'm saying is I don't want any of that rubbish to happen this year. I want clinical wins.
Yeah. I'm pretty confident, RCB, because like we all know they've been together for so long now as a core group, through the juniors, through to first grade, and they keep adding. They got Fanua Blake in. Sorry for the pun. They got Fanua Blake in. They've got, Nico Hines will be healthy, hopefully. He and Trindle will have time together. Blake Brayley's, career best form. I just think that there is enough experience now where that stuff hopefully doesn't happen. I don't know what the situation is like, in the heat of the moment, where the ball gets dropped, there's a scrum, and you got Sean Johnson playing his last game, or whatever the scenario
I
was.
hated that so much.
Yeah, so
everyone loves Sean Johnson in the league, and I'm just like, oh, why?
But
Why?
I don't know what goes on with the chat in the defensive line. If it's you and me out there, I'm going to spray you until you spray me back and go, do not concede, like,
Oh, well, not even that. Why are we passing the ball? Run backwards.
I know. See, I think
lie on the ground and pretend you're dead. Like, just waste the time.
I think they learn from that. I think that the coach probably sends out really specific instructions now after that, going, okay, I didn't know I had to tell you this stuff, but hey, tuck it under, do not pass the ball. I think they learn from all that, man. I really do.
Because this has always been my thing from like the whole Nico bad finals blah 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 narrative. All changes if in 2022 when we were sitting next to each other, if we had just cheated at the end and laid on the ball or kicked it away or got guys sin bin and just mucked it up like prison ball, like real flano prison balled it up, we would have won, right?
Yeah.
And then Nico doesn't have this loss on his record, even though he had like 6 try assists, like played fantastic, was the best player.
We probably play in a grand final.
Yeah, probably. But our situational awareness there, and I think of that because I was listening to a podcast, I can't remember who it was, but and it was about the Falcons losing to the Patriots, right? Ooh. In the Super Bowl, and they were up 28-3. The guy who was talking was saying the opponent doesn't then become, it's not the Patriots, the opponent is the clock, right?
Yes.
Wind the clock, and they didn't wind the clock well enough. We literally had to just cheat, just lie on the ball, start a fight. It doesn't matter what happens, just waste the time. But because we didn't sort of have that sort of awareness to just go, oh, there's only 30 seconds, just wrap it up, we sort of let him in. And so, I think those little final details are the things that's going to take us from this, cool, exciting core group of guys who we all love to the second premiership team,
Yeah, and I think that is what you're talking about is maturity, experience. Fanua Blake's all about that, I'm sure. And the guy that you're talking about is the greatest Shark of all time, not only at stealing the last 30 seconds, but he's the greatest Shark of all time, Paul Gallen. Like, under Paul Gallen's watch, we don't really lose those games. I'm sure there's examples where you can bring him up, but there's also a million examples of him doing dummy half runs,
The ledger was more in the Sharks' favour. The only one I can think of was in 2012, we somehow let an 8-point lead with a minute to go against Melbourne. Like, they scored twice in the same corner, like somehow, and whatever.
But you know what I'm saying. We're up by 4 and there's a minute on the clock. We got the ball on 20-meter line. He knows what to do and he tells everyone what to do. I feel like Fanua Blake is going to bring that as well. And it's not up to him, but he's going to know not to do the offload. If he doesn't offload in that moment, I'd be horrified and shocked. I think that along with Fanua Blake, there's a lot more maturity. I think that a guy like Blake Brayley these days would probably go 1 out football, 1 pass football. I'm sure that for a bunch of them, the Warriors lost last year is in their brain. I don't see Cam McInnes ever throwing the ball ever again, let alone the last 20 seconds of the game. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of okay with that stuff. If it means something in the future, then that's okay. And I do think that, as you say, that's what's going to take him to the next level is just cutting out the silly stuff. And it's going to be fascinating, man. It's a big year ahead. There's a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, there's expectation, Yeah,
but that's good. I was saying on one of the other episodes, you want
expectation. You want to be there when it matters. You want the expectation. We've got to want it. We've got to eat it up.
Can you imagine you and I doing a preseason podcast about the 04 team or the 03 team? And
well, see, 03,
not selling false hope, but sort of trying to go, we could do something here. So,
Well, it's the 03, we'd come off the prelim and there was expectation. In 04 with Stuart Raper, is like, oh, I'm glad that horrible man's out of the club.
Maybe poor examples to bring up, but I'm saying that we got a really good team, got a really good coach. The club's going okay.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that bites you most is maybe injuries. They're convinced the travel won't affect them. We'll see what happens. I think that, yeah, we're in for a pretty good year. How good it is, don't know. Wait and see. But yeah, like you, I've got high hopes, man. I really do. I've got high hopes.
Just win, baby.
Just win. Before we go, RCB, anything on the stereo you're listening to? Old, new, in between?
Well, I've been listening to the Killers a lot because I went and saw them in concerts.
How was that?
It was great. That Brendan Flowers, he's a professional, right?
Yes.
So I would describe a rock star as the sort of loose as a goose Vince Neil type, right? Or Axl Rose.
Whoa. Yeah.
Brendan Flowers has all the talent, but he's also like this sort of clean cut in a suit, like almost like they're a Vegas band, and he's got that real Vegas. They're a real Vegas thing, and yeah, no, it was a great show to go to. Went to a lot of bands in last year. A lot of artists came through Canberra, all the same place. So, you know, Smith Street Band, Regurgitator, the aforementioned Frenzal Rom. So, all those kind of things, man.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. Well, I have a feeling I'll be seeing you once or twice in the next month or so. We'll see how that goes, or next couple of months at least. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your expertise on the Sharks. Thanks for your input every week with the emails. They're always killer, no filler. So keep that up. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll do it again real soon. Sorry for just off the record. People don't know this, but I've really been messing you around with time slots and stuff. But we got there. It's been awesome. So love to the family, and we will talk to you real soon, RCB. And listeners, we'll be back with more episodes. As you know, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be in your grill, in fact. So if you don't like it, I feel sorry for you because we're not going anywhere. We're going to be SharkCasting on all those shuttle boards. Bit of a Seinfeld thing. Thanks for everyone. We appreciate it. All over that shuffleboard court. That's what I was trying to say. We will see you down at the game. If you're not there, you can watch it on the Foxtel, the KO, wherever else you get your footy. Until then, RCB, thanks for your thoughts on the Hall of Fame. We might even talk about things after Hall of Fame as well. See how that goes. But we are winding up. SharkCast Pod. Up Cronulla.
Up Cronulla.